In the vast tapestry of life on Earth, we have harnessed many forces of nature. But some, like the atom, hold a power so immense that their uncontrolled release can have devastating consequences. An explosion of a nuclear facility, though rare, can lead to the release of large quantities of radioactive material, an invisible menace unleashed from the heart of a shattered reactor. Such accidents, seared into our collective memory, can cause serious damage to the environment, human health, and the delicate balance of the ecosystem. From the immediate blast radius to the insidious spread of invisible contamination, the impact of a nuclear catastrophe can ripple outwards for generations. Join me now as we delve into the chilling reality of a nuclear plant explosion, exploring its potential effects on our world and its inhabitants. An explosion of a nuclear facility can lead to the release of large quantities of radioactive material with an uncontrolled chain reaction occurring in the reactor. Such accidents can cause serious damage to the environment, human health, and the ecosystem. Here are the possible effects of a nuclear plant explosion. Imagine, if you will, a tranquil landscape, perhaps dotted with the cooling towers of a power plant, a symbol of human ingenuity. Then, in a horrifying instant, the serenity is shattered by a blinding flash and a deafening roar. This is the moment an uncontrolled nuclear reaction escapes its confines, unleashing a wave of unimaginable destruction. The initial explosion, often driven by the buildup of steam and hydrogen gas within the reactor, sends a shockwave rippling outwards, flattening structures and leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. A raging inferno, fueled by burning debris and molten materials, can erupt, further consuming the surrounding landscape. But it is the unseen danger, the silent killer, that poses the most insidious threat: radiation. In those first terrifying moments, a plume of radioactive material invisible to the naked eye is ejected skyward, carried by the wind to spread its deadly cargo. This invisible rain of radioactive particles, a cocktail of isotopes with exotic names like iodine-131 and cesium-137, settles upon the Earth. It contaminates everything it touches: the soil, the water, the very air we breathe. For those unfortunate souls caught within the immediate vicinity of the explosion, the effects are immediate and devastating. The intense heat from the blast can cause severe burns, while the invisible radiation inflicts its own horrific toll. Nausea, vomiting, and weakness are among the first signs of radiation sickness, a debilitating and potentially fatal condition caused by exposure to high doses of radiation. The body's own cells, the very building blocks of life, are irrevocably damaged, leading to a cascade of health problems. And yet, as the dust settles and the initial shock subsides, a grim reality sets in. This is only the beginning. The invisible enemy radiation will linger long after the flames have died down, casting a long shadow over the affected region for years, even decades to come. In the aftermath of a nuclear explosion, the landscape, once familiar and life-sustaining, transforms into an alien and hostile environment. The air, now laced with radioactive particles, carries the potential for harm with every breath. The most immediate concern is the fallout, a sinister rain of radioactive dust and debris that can travel for hundreds, even thousands of miles from the explosion site. This invisible menace settles upon the Earth, contaminating everything it touches. Imagine a pristine forest, its canopy once teeming with life. Now the leaves droop, coated in a fine layer of radioactive dust. The very soil, the lifeblood of the forest, becomes poisoned, jeopardizing the delicate balance of this ecosystem. Water, the elixir of life, is also at risk. Radioactive isotopes carried by rainfall or groundwater flow seep into rivers, lakes, and reservoirs. Aquatic life, from microscopic organisms to large fish, absorb these contaminants, becoming part of a poisoned food chain. The agricultural lands that sustain us are not spared from this invisible plague. Crops, once destined to nourish us, become contaminated, posing a serious threat to human health. The very act of consuming food, once a source of sustenance and pleasure, becomes fraught with danger. The insidious nature of radioactive contamination lies in its persistence. Some isotopes, like cesium-137, have half-lives of decades, meaning they remain dangerously radioactive for generations. This long-lasting contamination poses a significant challenge for remediation efforts and casts a long shadow over the future of the affected region. The environmental consequences of a nuclear accident extend far beyond the immediate vicinity of the explosion. Migratory animals traversing vast distances can carry radioactive contamination to new areas, spreading the impact far and wide. The delicate balance of nature, finely tuned over millennia, is disrupted by this sudden influx of radioactive material. Mutations, often detrimental, can arise in plant and animal populations, jeopardizing their long-term survival. The unseen plague of radiation, unleashed by a nuclear explosion, has the power to transform our planet, leaving behind a legacy of contamination and ecological disruption that can last for generations. The human body, a marvel of intricate systems, is ill-equipped to cope with ionizing radiation. Radiation's impact is insidious, often inflicted at the cellular level, invisible to the naked eye. In the chaotic aftermath of a nuclear explosion, those closest to the blast face the most immediate health consequences. Acute radiation syndrome can manifest within hours of high-dose exposure. Imagine a doctor's surgery transformed into a scene of unimaginable suffering. Patients flood in, their bodies racked with nausea, vomiting, and debilitating weakness. Their skin may bear the marks of radiation burns, a grim reminder of the invisible force. The body's ability to produce new blood cells plummets, leaving victims vulnerable to infection and internal bleeding. Hair loss becomes a common sight. The true horror of radiation exposure lies in its long-term consequences. Even those who escape immediate effects face an increased risk of developing cancer later in life. Damaged cells can mutate and grow uncontrollably, leading to cancers. The thyroid gland is particularly vulnerable to radioactive iodine. Children are at greater risk of developing thyroid cancer after exposure. And the tragedy does not end there. Radiation can damage DNA, leading to genetic mutations passed to future generations. Birth defects and inherited diseases become a haunting legacy. The psychological toll of a nuclear accident is no less real. Fear, uncertainty, and loss can leave lasting emotional scars on survivors. The human cost extends far beyond immediate casualties. It is a burden carried by survivors, their families, and future generations, a stark reminder of radiation's devastating impact on human health. Long after the initial shockwaves have subsided and the fires have been extinguished, the long shadow of a nuclear accident continues to loom large. The social and economic fabric of a region, carefully woven over generations, can unravel in the face of such an unprecedented disaster. Imagine a thriving town, bustling with activity, its streets filled with the laughter of children. Now picture it eerily silent, its buildings abandoned, its inhabitants forced to flee their homes, perhaps never to return. The evacuation of contaminated areas, a necessary measure to protect human health, can uproot entire communities, severing social ties and leaving behind a sense of profound loss. The displaced population, often traumatized by their experiences, face an uncertain future, grappling with the challenges of displacement and the long road to recovery. The economic impact of a nuclear accident can be staggering. The cost of cleanup and decontamination efforts, often spanning decades, can place an enormous burden on governments and taxpayers. Industries reliant on the affected region, from agriculture to tourism, may collapse, leading to widespread unemployment and economic hardship. The stigma associated with radiation can linger for generations, even after areas have been declared safe. The fear of contamination, whether real or perceived, can deter investment, tourism, and even social interaction, hindering the long-term recovery of the region. The loss of cultural heritage sites, often located in areas of historical significance, adds another layer of tragedy to the aftermath of a nuclear accident. These irreplaceable treasures, witnesses to the passage of time, can be lost forever, their stories silenced by the invisible hand of radiation. The psychological impact of a nuclear accident, though difficult to quantify, is profound and enduring. The trauma of the event, the loss of loved ones, and the fear of the unknown can leave lasting scars on the collective psyche of a community. The long-term social and economic impacts of a nuclear accident are a stark reminder that the consequences of such events extend far beyond the immediate aftermath. They are a testament to the enduring power of radiation to disrupt lives, shatter communities, and leave an indelible mark on the human spirit. As we've journeyed together through the chilling landscape of a nuclear accident's aftermath, one truth emerges with unsettling clarity. If a nuclear power plant explodes, the consequences could be catastrophic and last for many years. The invisible tendrils of radiation, the poisoned air and water, the shattered lives and communities, stand as a stark warning to humanity. We have witnessed the devastating power of the atom unleashed, and we are left with a profound responsibility. The pursuit of peaceful uses of nuclear energy must go hand in hand with an unwavering commitment to safety, to preventing another Chernobyl or Fukushima. This means demanding the highest standards of design, construction, and operation of nuclear facilities. It means investing in rigorous safety protocols, in robust regulatory oversight, and in international cooperation to share knowledge and best practices. The future of our planet, the well-being of generations to come, hinges on our ability to learn from the mistakes of the past.